So what you've been listening to is the amp that I've been using on gigs. Now, I have played through every single amp brand, combos, stacks. I mean, I've literally been playing gigs since around approximately 1985. Okay, so I have played, Marshall stacks, Mesa Boogie stacks, Fender Twin Reverbs, Yamaha solid state amps, and anything in between. I've played it all the different Fender silver face amps. In fact, those amps are kind of the sound of my childhood because the silver face Fender amps were everywhere. I've owned a bunch. I still own one now. It's a nostalgia thing for me. But as far as carrying it out on a gig, it got to a point around COVID where it started to get hard to find tubes, and I started saying, I need to find an alternative. Ultimately, on these gigs that I'm doing, nobody in the band knows whether I'm playing a tube amp or what. You've got a lot of people these days bringing modelers to gigs, and I did try that. I've tried the Fractal. I had a Fractal floor unit. I've owned a Kemper for years, and I'm very comfortable with using that, in the studio and here at the house. But I needed to find something live that I liked. I didn't like being at the mercy of the sound man with a modeler and the mercy of the monitor. You show up and, well, here's your monitor and the tweeter's blown and you're going to sound like ass all night, but you're still expected to play your butt off. Okay, so, I checked out the Tone Master amps and I thought those were cool. But, I know it's a digital amp, and, I thought back of the times, back when I was a kid, I had a lot of PV amps too. PV was a huge brand that you could really rely on for, cost-friendly and, good quality and, maybe not the best tone, but a damn good tone, right? So, I had some PV solid-state amps back in the day, and I thought, why can't I just find a good solid state clean tone and what we call in Nashville a pedal platform? And I looked into the quilter stuff, and it actually started with, I had a quilter power block that I've had for years, and I kept it in my gig bag. And it saved my butt on a lot of different occasions. It's a little amp head, like about this big, and it's 100 watts. It's got a few different notches on it for different, Fender amp, tones and different things like that. But I always kept it as a backup. And what I would do, I always had combo amps that had speaker jacks on the back. And I could unplug the speaker jack and just plug into the power block. And boom, I was back up and running. There'd be times I'd get to a gig and all of a sudden, the tube amp's down, pull out the power block, boom, I'm playing the gig. Okay, so then I experimented with the power block and the little dock block, they call it, where you take the power block head and you put it inside the dock block. And it's like a little combo amp. It's a 10-inch speaker. And I was impressed by that, although the EQ options with my personal dock block or, power block that I had, the EQ was a little tricky on it. I had to kind of EQ a lot of bass out of it. But man, super loud and super small and light. I mean, it's like that big. And it really sounded good on gigs. I used it on a handful of gigs, and I thought, maybe I can just step up to this Mach 3. It's the Quilter's top of the line, solid state amp. The majority of gigs that I'm doing these days, they're corporate gigs, they're weddings, they're, parties, any kind of gala or fundraiser or charity balls or, anything like that. That's mostly what I'm doing these days. I don't need a 412 cab and a 100-watt head. I don't need a Fender Twin Reverb. But I do like the feeling of having an amp behind me and being able to, hear that and feel that. Because, I'm expected to play good. I'm expected to sound good. And this amp is a clean pedal platform for me. I run everything into the front of this. I don't use the effects loop. And I'm using the top boost channel on this. If you can see this, you see that there is a 1957 setting, which is a tweed. There's a 1961, which is a brown face Fender. There's 1965, which is supposed to be black face Fender. There's a plexi setting. There's a sweet setting that's supposed to be a Dumble type setting. And then there's the top boost. Now, I don't listen with my eyes. So, yes, I tried these ones. Tweed's usually not my thing. But I did try the brown, and I tried the black, and I tried the plexi, and I tried the sweet. To my ears, the best clean tone, it came from that top boost channel. So that's what I use. I run my overdrives and a clean boost. I'll run a clean boost in the front of this. And in fact, what you were hearing on the recording before is I had a clone, the Conspiracy Theory by Way Huge. And I had that plugged straight into channel 1. And I had that set for a clean boost with very low gain, just to give that clean sound a little bit of a goose and just make it feel a little more springy. Okay, but to my ears, this top boost, I'm not sure it sounds like a Vox. I'm not sure if any of these settings sound exactly like what I hear in my head when I think of these amps, or what my experience has been with these amps. And I'm not generally a Vox player, but to my ears, this was a great platform tone, that top boost channel on this. And so I use this as my pedal platform. I run a small pedal board with just enough to do anything that could be thrown at me. If we get called to play, Don't Stop Believing, or if we, whatever. But the majority, I'm riding on that clean channel, and I'm riding on that clean channel with a little bit of clean boost, and I'm playing rhythm, I'd say 80% of the night. And when it's time to come take a solo, well, then I kick in my overdrive pedal or my drive pedal, and boom, and I go. And this amp really gives you that ability. Plus, you've got two volume knobs on this. You've got a speaker volume knob, right? And that's what comes out of the front of the combo amp. But right here is the signal out, and that's the sound. There's an XLR in the back of this amp, and the sound man gives me an XLR, I plug straight into this, and then boom, the XLR signal is what I hear coming from the monitor. Now, the blend of those two sounds is what I'm hearing, and I'll tell you what, you heard some good sounds there with just the direct. That's what you were listening to, was the amp direct into my interface. And I didn't use any post-processing or, any extra reverb. It's the reverb straight from this amp. But what I did do, when I play live, I've got the speaker feeding me out volume from here. Then I've got the monitor, and I'm hearing what the front of house guy gets. And that's the sound that you heard there on that recording at the beginning, is the sound of this amp and what it sounds like going to front of house the way I set it. With these tone controls on this amp, they're very active. So actually, what they say, I think 0 is like almost dimed on most amps. So I set everything at about 10 o'clock on the EQ. I turn the limiter off. I have the distortion off. I have the gain at about 10 o'clock. And I have the volume at, say, 1 o'clock here. Then I've also got the speaker volume here. But I don't tend to get it anything over the 25 or 50 setting. And it's plenty loud. We do play loud sometimes. And I am known to play a little too loud at times, as we all guitar players are known to do. But this amp has really ticked all the boxes for me. It's very light, you know, as you can see. It's very light, and it works. And I like the sound out of it, and in theory, it's channel switching, so I guess I could set it up with 2 channels, and I could just show up on a gig with just this. But I like the way the amp takes pedals. And, you know, pedals are a huge part of, you know, what we kind of do here in Nashville, at least. We're not really known as a channel switching amp town. And so, you know, this is what I use. Now, I still have my tube amps. I've got a vintage Fender amp and got a Dr. Z behind me and a few other amps that I keep and I will use. You know, if I have a recording session, I usually take a tube amp. But, you know, this has been a great addition, this Quilter Mach 3, the Aviator Mach 3. I really like it. You know, the Fender Tone Master is great, but I wanted to try something different. And this is different. I don't know anybody else in town that has one of these, but I really like it. It's very convenient. I don't have to worry about, you know, hurting my back carrying out of the gig, because sometimes you got to go down a flight of stairs. Sometimes these places don't have the best load-ins. This helps because, you know, I don't need to be lugging 40, 50 pound amp around. Ultimately, I just need to play good. And that's what I think all of us guitar players need to remember. You know, you can get a little caught up in the gear thing, and I'm guilty of it just like anybody else. But ultimately, it comes down to this and this, this and this, okay? And so I just need something that works every time, and this thing has worked flawlessly. Now, for many years, I had a Kemper, and I really loved the Kemper, and I used it for a long time. I got a little bit disappointed in that they never really improved the hardware, and that's why I left the Kemper. And once I heard the Tonex, I liked what I was hearing from a pure amplifier sound. I liked what I was hearing out of this better, okay? I still feel the gate is not as good as what was in the Kemper, and obviously the Kemper had all those effects and all. It's really kind of an all-in-one thing. It's just the form factor for me aged, and the fact that they didn't go, hey, you know what, we're going to beef up the hardware, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to have a touch screen. You know, I really think they kind of dropped the ball on that. But anyway, I do like the Tonex, and I love this UA Effects Lion 68 Super Lead amp. This is a great sounding, you know, Marshall replica. And as far as recording at the house, between these two, you know, I got it covered. I've got a pedal board over here with all my outboard effects and all that. I can get any sound I need to get. And, you know, we've come a long way with gear. You know, it used to be really hard to get a great guitar sound. And I think, you know, there's varying levels of great or good or not so good. You know, a lot of it we still have to remember comes from this, comes from this, comes from this, comes from this. All we need are the tools to get the job done. And most of those tools you already have. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and showing you what I use live, because this is the amp I use live, and this is what I use here in my little home studio. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit the like and subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And also, hit me up and down in the comments. I'd love to know what you use, whether you have a Quilter amp, or maybe you got the Tone Master, or maybe you'll never leave your tube amp. Hey, I understand. I love tube amps too. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this journey. It's been an awesome time, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.